How's it going, everyone? I'm going to answer a question today that crops up a lot, and that is, what was my first job in tech? And I will tell you. Hopefully I'll have some tips on how to get your first job, what to focus on during your first job, what types of companies to kind of target and why, and just kind of give you a real life kind of story of how I did this thing. My first job in tech was an internship that I got for a small language services provider, aka a translation company in Cambridge, Massachusetts. This was around 2010. I had been programming for a while. I'd been doing stuff with Linux for a while, and I had just never thought about doing it professionally. I don't know, it was just a hobby to me. I liked it, and I thought of everyone in, you know, the massive corporate world as a bunch of drones and shills, and forget that. I've just slightly changed my mind, but only slightly since then. Before that, I had done a bunch of different things, literally from like landscaping to being an infantryman to data entry for an insurance company and temp work. I had a very relaxed lifestyle. At the time, I was actually working as a Chinese massage person. I know, get the jokes out now. That's what I was doing when I got into tech, when I realized I can make money doing this. It actually sounds like a cool job. And what I was doing actually was browsing job ads to see what cool skills I might be able to learn. Just looking at the requirements for different job positions as like fodder for learning, because I was like, all right, I'm into Linux, like let's see what else I should learn. I'm into Python, let's see what's next. And I was like, fuck it, I'll just apply. And I did. I wrote a cover letter, and that's the first point I want to make. Cover letters are super, super important. Early in your career, the cover letter is literally what makes someone either want to interview you or not. You obviously need some skills to back it up. It helps to have some relevant educational background, but it's not required. And the cover letter is what makes it. So the best thing I did, and I still do, is truly put effort into the cover letter. Make it relevant, make it interesting, keep it not too short, not too long, about a page. Share some stuff honestly about myself and my interests. Communicate why you are interested in working for that company, where you want to go, which direction you want to grow in. Just try to communicate that you are an enthusiastic person who wants to learn. I think that's one of the most important things in tech, is just willingness to learn. No one expects you to know everything. You just need to be able to get yourself up to speed on things independently. If you can communicate those things in a cover letter, your chances are pretty good. You're doing yourself a favor. So I got the gig. And here's the next thing. The company was a smallish company. And in retrospect, that was an amazing place to start, because at a small company, if you're doing, no matter what tech thing you're doing, whether you're a software engineer or a server admin or even a support sort of client admin person, I was all three there. At a small company, you get to taste and try and play with a bunch of different technologies in a way that you might not at a very large, more regimented company. You might be a little more specialized, is what I'm saying. And you want to avoid that early in your career. You want to get as broad of an experience as you possibly can that early in your career, in those first few jobs. So smaller companies where everyone is kind of like hands-on and like doing whatever they can is usually a better environment for more junior engineers. So I highly recommend that. It was a great experience, and a few months later I was promoted to sort of hired as a regular full-time salaried junior sysadmin, and I stayed there for several years, just working my way up, taking bigger projects. The mentorship aspect is super important early on, and I thankfully had a great mentor, my boss, who I'm still friends with to this day. I still see him as a mentor. I think he occasionally watches these videos, so thanks, man. Appreciate it, Bill. That's a big thing. So you're kind of bootstrapping your professional network at your first gig. You're bootstrapping your skills and how broad your kind of general skill set is. And you're really doing a lot of learning about how a company works, how business works, why like tech isn't the most important thing to a business, and how you kind of fit into what a business is trying to achieve. The earlier you learn those lessons and you understand that, the better. You're just gonna not bang your head into so many things during your career. Anyway, so at my first gig, I learned a lot about server administration. We got into the cloud. I did some Ruby and Rails development. They paid for like a Rails development course that I took. I got to travel to New York City and like live in this tiny hotel room at the Jane. It was friggin' amazing. Commute up to this Ruby and Rails, Ruby on Rails class. Ruby and Rails. I don't know why I said that. It's not really what it's referred to as. But it was thrilling, you know, and it was like my first, my toe had been firmly dipped into this thing, and now I was just like jumping right in. I hope that's been useful. You'll notice I didn't spend a ton of time talking about the specific technologies that I used, even though the vast majority are still very relevant. You know, AWS, Ruby on Rails, a bunch of Python, a bunch of Linux-like server stuff, VMware for virtualization. I built a big old SAN for storage. I did a lot of cool stuff that is still cool. It's just my focus in this video intentionally is on the other things that I learned, because especially earlier in your career, it's much more important that you kind of pick up all of the stuff that isn't found in some like tech study index cards somewhere, if that makes sense. I hope that's been useful if you are considering tackling your first job. And I hope that in that story, you kind of heard the important things, which is what size company should you consider working at? What's kind of right for you? What to focus on when you get there, how to get there, good cover letter, be a competent, decent human being in the interview, make friends, find mentors, provide as much value as possible, get your hands dirty with as much different stuff as possible. And that way you can really see what is interesting to you. Where do you want to go? So I hope that's been useful. Peace.